Aloha and welcome to the very first practice WOD of the semester called FizzBuzz, classic program. If you Google for FizzBuzz, you'll find out that 98% of people applying for jobs, some crazy figure, can't do FizzBuzz. So we want to make sure that you can do FizzBuzz if you're ever in an interview that asks you to do such a simple thing. So basically, before you do this, I want you to have gone through the Hello World, creating and running your first job application tutorial, just to get you a little bit set up with IntelliJ. You should go through the unit testing tutorial so you know how to set up unit tests, and play the flashcard game so you start to have a sense for key bindings. Okay, so the WOD is going to be to implement this FizzBuzz algorithm that's basically it takes the number, and if the number is a multiple of 3, then it should print out fizz. If it's a multiple of 5, it should print out buzz. And if it's a multiple of both 3 and 5, it should print out FizzBuzz. We're going to have a main method that just basically cycles through the numbers from 1 to 100, checking to make, and then invoking another method that's going to actually do the mapping from the integer to the corresponding string. And we want to split it into those two methods, a main method and then this internal kind of worker method, so that we can more easily write a test case to check to make sure that our algorithm is doing the mapping correctly. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. And as you can see, I've gone through these 9 steps that kind of guide you through what you should do. I installed a little app called Time, T-H-Y-M-E, to allow me to do menu bar timing. You can find some other timer, or just use your watch, doesn't really matter. You don't have to, minute level accuracy is fine for this. So let's begin. So we're going to get our timer to started, and the first thing is we need to go to GitHub and create a new repo called FizzBuzz. So I'll click here and I'll type in FizzBuzz, and what the heck, I'll add a Java. I'll add a java.getIgnore, and I kind of like the GNU license, so that's the one I'm going to use. Okay, so now my FizzBuzz is done, and then if I do clone, that immediately brings up my my GitHub app on my Mac and allows me to clone it. So that's kind of a really nice and easy way to get things local. And so then the next thing I want to do is bring up IntelliJ. And so you can see it doesn't take that long. This is very important that that was like 5-7 seconds. And we're going to say create a new project. And it's going to be a Java project. And we'll click next. We don't want any of those. And the project location is going to be in project hosting ICS 613 FizzBuzz. And then we'll use the name FizzBuzz, so that's all good. And so in just a couple seconds, we've got ourselves a FizzBuzz project. Okay? So I guess we can just kind of go back and forth here with Chrome. Okay, so I've done the GitHub repo called FizzBuzz, created an IntelliJ project within the local FizzBuzz repo, and now I've created Java. Now I have to create a Java class called FizzBuzz, loop through the numbers from 1 to 100, and print out the appropriate FizzBuzz string by invoking the FizzBuzz mapping method. Okay, so let's go back here. So if I go to source and then do new and then Java class, and we'll call the class FizzBuzz. And sure, let's add it to Git, and here we are. And then we can do this groovy template expansion thing. Why not? That gets me to right here. You notice I've got 2 space indentation. If you've got 4 space indentation, that means you haven't configured IntelliJ right. So make sure that's okay. So we're going to say for int I equals 1, I less than or equal to 100, I double plus, and we'll say system.out.print line FizzBuzz mapper of I. Right, so that's the way we're going to kind of get this thing to print out the numbers. But you notice I haven't implemented that method yet. So I can click here, and actually if I do this, and then I click here, it will create the method for me, which is kind of cool. Okay, and then we say what we actually want this to see. It doesn't know really what kind of value is going to be returned from the context, so it gives me some options, and obviously what I want is string, so I'll click that. Int is cool, and so I'll go in here. Oops. I'll go here, and it's going to do return null. Actually, what I want to say is if. And now we've got to start doing our algorithm. So we can say, well, you know, one simple way to think about it is if I mod 3 equals 0, whoops, then return fizz, else if I mod 5 equals 0, return buzz, whoops, else if both I mod 3 equals 0 and I mod 5 equals 0, return FizzBuzz. So that would be, you know, one way one could do it, I guess. Oh, and I've got a missing an extra space there. Whoops. Oh wait, I got to put some braces around the whole thing. Okay, so what's wrong with this? Oh, right. Good. Okay, else return and then string to string. It's actually integer dot to string I. Okay. All right, that looks better. What does this thing think? Oh, we're fine. Okay, so now we want to check to make sure that this thing runs. So we can do that by pulling down the run menu and going run. And we click FizzBuzz. So it compiles, and then we see that we do have, you know, a bunch of numbers. And if you look closely, you can see there's no FizzBuzzes in there, indicating an error with our logic. Okay. So actually this program isn't working correctly yet, but let's have our test case figure out why our program isn't working well. So in order, we need to write a test case, and the way we do that is the first thing that we're going to do is create a directory in FizzBuzz called test, and then we're going to mark that as the root directory for our tests. And then we're going to say propeller shift T to create a new test. And this needs to be a JUnit 4 test. Okay, we're always going to use JUnit 4. And JUnit 4 library not found in the module, so we'll fix that. We're going to call it FizzBuzz test. And we're going to generate, actually, I just realized one thing we want to do is make this public. That's so that we can actually test this within our test case. So once we do that, we'll do propeller shift T, create new test, and now everything, except this is JUnit 4, and now we'll create a test just for this FizzBuzz mapper method, which we can now access because it's public. Which is kind of a problem about having, you know, the tests in a different class, but issue for another day. Okay, so we're going to say assert equals, and we'll say test fizz, and we want it to return fizz when FizzBuzz dot FizzBuzz, and you can see we have this completion thing going on, is past the value 3. Okay, now we can do a little, conveniently, we can duplicate the line with a simple keystroke, which reduces typing. Buzz with buzz, if we've got 5. And then let's duplicate that line one more time and say we're going to do FizzBuzz, FizzBuzz by invoking it with 15. Okay, so there's our simple test, very simple test case. And we probably should actually test, that test number. And so let's make sure that it returns 1 when we pass it 1. Okay. Now we want to run this puppy, so we're going to say run, and we're going to say run FizzBuzz test. So it runs it, and we get this red line, which indicates that things are not good. And the problem was at test FizzBuzz mapper line 11, so if I click that link, it's going to highlight the line that failed, which is this one right here, indicating that we got FizzBuzz right, we got buzz right, but we didn't get FizzBuzz right. And obviously, probably all of you know this by now. I'm the last one to know this, but the reason is because really I should be checking for FizzBuzz as the very first thing. And so one way to fix that is to do this, kind of switch the order of these things. Okay, so now if I go here, and if I run FizzBuzz test again, I can see, okay, it's all green. So I'm very happy about that. So I've informally tested my program by running it. You saw that. I wrote a test class. I ran the test. It failed. Then I made sure it passed. All I have to do now is commit the result to GitHub. So I'll go back into my little GitHub guy and saying finished the FizzBuzz WOD. Commit and sync. And there we have it. So right about 10.5 minutes. We'll call it 11 minutes for this WOD to be RX. And we can go, if we want to go back here and refresh, we can see that all our stuff is now at GitHub. And then it's interesting to look at the commit history. You can see that I started about 3:50 p.m. and I ended about 4 p.m. So there you have, pretty much 10 minutes. Is the length of time for this WOD. It doesn't take into account kind of that initial GitHub stuff, but pretty darn close. Okay, so 10-minute WOD. Hope you enjoyed it. If it took you 20, 30 minutes, I'd suggest you repeat this a few times too. You can just kind of really like lock in the creating something in GitHub, the cloning it to your local repository, running IntelliJ, setting up Java classes, setting up test cases. That should all just go super fast, and you shouldn't be stumbling around with that kind of stuff. That's the whole point of these, repeating these WODs, is that you want to just get comfortable going through these actions and doing them efficiently so that you have more time to really think about the complicated stuff that happens in programming, and you're not hung up on just like, oh, how do I create a test case? That's the last thing you want to be worried about, is the mechanics. The mechanics should be very intuitive and quick, and that frees your mind to worry about the higher level issues, and your overall productivity will soar when all your time is focused on the important hard problems, and none of your time is spent worried about the simple stuff. And I think repeating these WODs until you get fluent with this stuff is the best way to get there. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you next time.